What is going on, everybody? So, I was looking for a video to do a reaction on for the Ed, and Eddy month that we've been doing so far. And normally, I don't like doing reaction videos to other YouTuber videos, if that makes sense. Like, if a YouTuber uploads a compilation of, like, Cartoon Network bumpers, that's different, like how we've been doing. Or, like, Death Battle or something. But other YouTuber videos, I don't really like to react to because I feel I'm taking away from them, and I don't ever want that. So, always go and make sure you guys check out the original video and subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. But when looking for an idea for a video to react to or do a video on, I thought this would be fun. The terrifying theory that all Ed, and Eddy are dead and live in purgatory. I've heard this theory before, so you guys are going to get my kind of in-depth thoughts on it. You'll see what my thoughts are on it. But here's the thing: is I don't know the full theory. I've only heard bits and pieces of what the theory is. And, well, we will see where it goes. So, without any further ado, Marvelous Videos' video here. Terrifying theory. Oh, let me not. Hopefully that's only for a second.
There are many
Okay.
iconic shows and characters that rocked our screens. It won't be a simple task to pick apart the wackiest one of them all. Today, we're going to show you just that. A show that was so absurd that nothing made sense. It's the Ed, and Eddy show that we're talking about. The show was bizarre in every aspect, from its offbeat animation style to
Ed, and Eddy show.
There was definitely something not quite right. There's a ton of fan theories that I bet you didn't know about. These theories have been floating around ever since the show's inception, and one such theory is the Purgatory one, where all the kids are dead, yet alive. Make sure you complete this episode, because we're going to give you the details about this crazy thought that will knock your 90 socks right off. Join us in this fresh take on the nostalgic memories from our childhood, if you're ready. Just before we go into our video, though, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel.
Yes, everybody, please go leave your comments, likes, subscribes, all that fun stuff there. So here we go. We're finally getting into the little bit of the theory here. It looks like, or.
Why this theory could be true. What you might have missed in the show is that every character is suggested to be dead.
So.
In the afterlife. The neighborhood in which the show takes place is said to symbolize a place called the Purgatory. In case you didn't know, that is where sinners suffer to atone for their sins before they reach heaven.
And see,
further, the characters don't portray features of humans that are alive, but rather ones who are dead.
let's listen to this. Let's give it a listen. Let's give it a listen.
For instance, their tongues aren't the normal pink color of a healthy human, but instead it has a blue-grayish hue.
Okay, but that's because they do nothing but eat jawbreakers all day. Like, that's why.
Which is found on decaying corpses. And that makes me wonder, is this why most of us like dark hues? Another such example is the skin tone. Every character has pale skin, which is once again a common characteristic of people who have, stopped breathing.
Do they? No, they don't. Look, Jimmy might. Jimmy probably has pale skin. Sarah doesn't. Eddy doesn't. Ed is yellow. That's not even true.
Moreover, there's absolutely no...
Like, yeah, look, Jimmy is. Like, if they wanted to say Jimmy, like, okay, but look, you have Sarah sitting right here. She's clearly a different hue. What does he mean they're pale?
in the show, and the kids seem to be all on their own. I think about it. When was
Double
the
D
last
doesn't
time
look
you
very
saw
pale.
An entire neighborhood full of tweens? Although there are mentions of the parents and other adults, the theories suggest that they've never been on the show. There's one notable exception within the show.
Right, with his brother.
In an episode that showed their departure.
And I will say, I don't know how old the Canker sisters are, but the Canker sisters are supposed to be older than anybody in the cul-de-sac. That's why the Eds are scared of them, because they're older, right? And they're in that phase of, oh, we're liking boys now, and that's why the Eds are so scared of them, because they're not there yet, right? They're still younger. They're still wanting to just hang around and joke with their friends and laugh and blah 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 blah, right? So the Canker sisters are also, people forget that the Canker sisters are considered older. I would call the Canker sisters tweens. So that's another thing. I don't know how old they are. We could probably look. How old are the Kanger sisters? All three are 12-year-old fraternal triplets. I wonder where they got this from. Tumblr. I thought Ed and Ed. Oh, that's definitely not right. Does this say how old they are? Birth unknown. Credits unknown. I don't know. I'm not trying not to take too much time away from the video, but if that's true of them being 12, well, then how old are the Eds? How old are Ed, and Eddie? So they're somewhere between 12 and 14. I don't know. I always thought the Kanger sisters were older.
The characters are shown using various technologies like CDs, cassette tapes, even typewriters. This points towards an ambiguous timeline of the show and also indicates that every character belongs to a different time period.
I mean, sure, but here's the thing: is that the reason why there's all those different kinds of things in there is because the show continued to progress. It's kind of like a lot of other shows, like Dragon Ball Super, for example. In Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, they didn't use cell phones. You know, they'd use car phones, they'd use house phones. They didn't use cell phones. But in Dragon Ball Super, which is supposed to take place not much longer after Dragon Ball Z, right? They're using cell phones, like an iPhone. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that they're all from different time periods. Like, come on.
Why not? They arrived in Purgatory according to the chronology of their time of death, which is some really dark stuff.
And I will say, I do know that theories just like this are made for fun. I do know that. I do know that they're made for fun. They're not always supposed to be taken too seriously. Sometimes they are, right? So, but this is just all my opinion on it. There's some theories that I find interesting, like a lot of coma theories. I find coma theories to be interesting. Do I find them silly? Maybe a little dumb? Yeah, of course. But I find them at the very least interesting. Some of these that go very far, these are the ones where I look at and I'm like, I don't see it.
Characters and theories. Every character in the show died differently and in a different time period. Hence, they all have their own backstory about life and death. Simply knowing the theory isn't enough, so we need to dive into the characters and their dark sides too.
I forgot about that scene because he's had stage fright. Yeah.
He's the son of an immigrant farmer. Before arriving at the cul-de-sac, Rolf worked tirelessly on his parents' small farm. He's also the leader of a Boy Scout troop called Urban Rangers.
Now this is another thing I do find okay, people love to point at Rolf always of it's when it comes to the purgatory theory, people always point to Rolf he's from the World War II, or I don't know, it's some weird stuff. And it's like all they were trying to do really with the cast of characters is what most people try to do when you're creating a show and you have a cast of characters. You try to make them as diverse as possible. You don't want two characters that are like the same. So yeah, there's diversity within the cast. Rolf is the weird immigrant guy, right? Doesn't mean he's, resurrected from some different time period,
The gang includes Jimmy, Plank, and Johnny. Rolf takes great pleasure in his farming heritage. He often calls himself the proud son of a shepherd. One distinct
That's true.
about Rolf is that he always speaks in the third person. The theory suggests that Rolf was the first to arrive from the 1900s era. His family moved to Peach Creek to set up a farm. Ultimately, though, Rolf passed away around 1903 due to a tragic incident where his family's farm animals stampeded and trampled him. This incident is believed to be the reason why, in the afterlife, Rolf only has a limited number of animals, including one cow, one goat, a few pigs, a few chickens, all of which wouldn't be enough to cause a fatal stampede. This shows the amount of fear that stems from his death. Even in the afterlife, though, he diligently tended to his animals each day.
Okay, but what was the episode when Ed, and Eddie were all trying to get to the Jawbreaker shop, and there was that legion of chickens that was going by? Weren't those Rolf's? I thought so.
Johnny 2x4. Johnny was a kid from the neighborhood, and
This will be a good one.
everyone liked him. Johnny's nickname, Johnny 2x4, most likely comes from his wooden plank size. This
Yeah.
is either ingenious or an absolute absence of creativity, but either way it worked. Johnny has a large head with little to no hair in it, and this made him the butt of many jokes in the episodes. He was often found annoying others in the neighborhood with his chatty nature, yet
This is
he was
true.
Forrest Gump level chatty. He was barely seen alone. He always seemed to be accompanied by his imaginary friend, Plank. And Plank was exactly
Plank.
what sounds like a wooden plank with eyes and a mouth drawn on it. Despite being perceived as unusual in modern times, his actions were regarded as simple childhood innocence and playfulness during his era. He passed away in 1922 after a long struggle with tuberculosis. A cure for his illness
See, like,
wasn't discovered until 6 years later. In the afterlife, he brought his only friend, Plank, with him, as it was the last thing he saw before his death. Plank is known to sometimes show sentient behavior, notably shown in the movie, and that could be explained by their existence within Purgatory.
see, I don't.
He is one of the main characters in it.
I don't know. I'm not vibing with the idea. Like again, it's fun. Like I see how it's fun. Like how he's like, Johnny died of tuberculosis. Like, on what grounds do you have to prove that? None. But with the theory in place, that's a fun idea to put forward and present. And it's like, yeah, I get it. It's fun. But there's a lot of people who take these theories really seriously and not only believe them, but try to push them. Like, you know, again, the theories are fun, but it ruins, I don't want to say it ruins the show, but it, like, whenever you're just sitting here with a friend trying to watch Ed, Edd, and Eddy, and they're like, hey, did you know that all the Eds are you know, from a purgatory? You know, and that starts to spread misinformation at that point. Because at that point, it's not true. You're just spreading misinformation. So, again, these are a lot of fun to do. I create fun theories sometimes with my friends, but sometimes they can lead to misinformation.
Ed, and Eddie. He is also the self-appointed leader of the Eds gang. He basically won the marathon in which nobody else participated. Eddie has many
It's true.
shortcomings, not just for a leader, but even for a regular, sane human. He's overambitious, deceitful, and always power-hungry. Even his friends often reject him in front of others. We all have that one friend in every group. Sure, go ahead and share this episode with them. Eddie's opponent, Kevin, even called him desperate for all his attempts to make money. He always seeks approval because his rival, Kevin, is more popular than he. And this makes Eddie feel inferior, even when compared to his father. Eddie was born in New York during the Great Depression. Like many others, he must have witnessed economic
Makes him feel inferior even compared to Plank? Is that what he said? I don't know about that.
And misery. However, he had no one like a father figure that he could idolize and learn to navigate the world from. All he had was an older brother who was surely not a good choice to be inspired by.
That's fair.
He attempted to make money by scamming the swindle kids.
That's fair. If you actually do, like, psychoanalyze, like, these characters, that is a fair psychoanalysis. That's probably why Eddie does act the way he does. Is he didn't have that parental, or probably more importantly, the father figure guidance in his life, right?
But it doesn't go well. He was chased by them into a lake where he drowned and bit the dust. In the afterlife, Eddie continued his pursuit of the almighty dollar through scamming, showing his persistent nature even beyond the world of the living.
Santa time.
I mean, there's barely anything that he can do without hilariously failing at it. Ed is also one of the three main characters of the show. Although he is the strongest of the three, he's also the least intelligent.
Yes.
Get it? Not all
Yes.
fingers are the same, right? Ed, however, is a pleasant character with a positive attitude.
I love the
He has a knack for befriending
face
whoever
imprint.
he comes across. Ed is often forgetful and innocent, which makes him an ideal partner for Eddie's scams because he's very loyal and he rarely questions or doubts them. Yet Ed never thinks of mistreatment from Eddie, even though he always serves as the main manpower for all of the schemes.
Yeah.
Ed's naivety makes
Ed-
him a victim of his sister too, Sarah,
Yes.
the predominant person.
Well, because Ed never really takes anything too seriously. Well, I mean, he takes everything as in the moment, and that's it. Like, Eddie will try to hit him, and he'll run because I'm scared. I'm feeling this emotion. I don't want to get hit. Let me run. And then it'll go over, and then he'll be laughing and joking and playing again with Eddie like moments later.
Personality. He's always scared of Sarah And why wouldn't he be? Because she has this control over him. Despite her torture and teasing, Ed does care a lot for Sarah and tries hard
Yeah.
to keep her safe and happy.
Yeah.
And Sarah joined the cul-de-sac right after Eddie. After their father's death in the Second World War, they were distant from their mother. Maybe that's what led to Sarah adopting this bossy behavior to compensate for the loneliness.
But that isn't true. Because remember all the time Sarah would be like, I'm telling Mom. No, don't tell Mom, Sarah. You know, like, the mother's in the picture, clearly. Probably more so than the father.
Immersed himself in comic books and monster movies to escape his troublesome reality. In 1953, they both tragically died in a car accident and united with the other dead children in the afterlife.
You get off. You guys are totally acting like jerks. Why don't you leave poor Jimmy alone? He's younger than you know, and blah, 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 blah.
And blah, 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 blah.
Naz von Partenschmier is the popular kid in town, and she's also the romantic interest of the show. She's known for her trendy and beautiful look.
Is she? I mean, I guess, but nobody ever really goes for her. Like, okay, I don't want to say what he said is wrong, because if you really think about it technically, about what is, here is the glass that is romantic love interest. She's like the bottom of the glass, the bare minimum entryway for what would be considered a romantic interest. Like, do the boys in the show tend to have crushes on her and maybe show off a little bit for her? Like, yeah, but none of them really get with her, except for debatably Kevin by the movie. And even then, it only seems like they're just kind of... it doesn't look like they're dating yet. It just looks like they're kind of talking. So, yeah, I don't know if I would call her the romantic interest. I don't know if I would do that. Go that far.
Mainly Kevin. Her beauty leaves most boys captivated, and more often makes them nervous and speechless. However, with the exceptions being Rolf and Jimmy. As the head cheerleader at Peach Creek Junior High School...
This is such a great picture, by the way. Everyone is so uniquely drawn. Look at, like you've got Kevin and then Rolf right next to each other. Look at Rolf's eyes, the way that they're drawn. And then look at Naz, how she's got like one eye, and then Johnny. Look at just the eyes alone. Look at how expressive this is. One small eye, one really big eye to show that he's the weird one. I don't know what the eyes here are trying to show with Naz. This kind of makes her look weird too. This makes him look weird. Kevin looks, but Sarah probably looks maybe the most normal here. And then you got Jimmy. Then you could probably also tell this is a bit of a season 1. I want to say that's season 1 drawings.
Acting like the typical friendly and somewhat dumb blonde girl next door. She's fine with the Eds and their mischief as long as they're not troubling her girl gang. Naz was born to hippie parents in the 1960s. She's a flirty flower child, engaged with the male children in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, in the summer of '79, a local asylum escapee entered her home, committing terrible acts against Naz and resulting in her sad death alongside her entire family. Naz seems to be a little too okay for someone with such a gruesome death.
A little too okay.
Leave the suffering behind.
You throw like a 2-year-old.
Ed, the Brainiac. Ed is known by the coolest nickname of them all, Double D. He's one of the 3 main characters within the show. Despite being the physically weakest, he stands out clearly as the most intelligent amongst the Eds. Ed is one of the characters who is very careful, kind, and has good intentions. He's characterized by calm and disciplined behavior. He hates chaos and loves order, often playing the role of a peacemaker due to his love for harmony.
Which is interesting because we were just talking about this. He has that nice type personality, right, where he's always wanted to do the good thing. But then he is friends with Eddie and Ed, and they're the complete opposite. But there's times where in the first season, for example, even though he says, oh, he's not the type to really get into that stuff, he does. Not only does he get into it, he's part of it, you know?
Although Ed is gentle and accepting, he can sometimes be a bit awkward, especially in interactions with girls. Despite the fact that he seems to be an outcast, he earns respect within his peer group. Ed often offers assistance when needed. Without Ed and Eddie, Ed might have been more accepted by the overall group. However, being a perfectionist and always aiming to please others, Ed was born in the 1970s, and this was a time when an early academic success became
1970s.
Ed was raised by strict, controlling parents who pushed him to excel academically and maintain flawless
I do find it
performance.
interesting he continues to call Double D Ed. I mean, that is his name, you know, but everyone just calls him Double D.
Yeah, what can you dorks do about it? Well, we dorks are gonna solve this.
Kevin the Bully. Kevin was born in the early 90s.
Oh, interesting that they're doing Kevin last.
Faced a tough childhood with a broken down home and an abusive father. Kevin had to bear the loss of his mother at a young age too. Like most bullies, he became a bully to other kids in the cul-de-sac to cope with his own frustrations. Kevin loves his bike and is always seen with it. This aligns well with the rise of extreme sports and the popularity of the X Games in 1995. Unfortunately, his father fatally beat him in a drunken rage in the later months of 1999.
Wow.
This led to his death on the way to the hospital. His father was convicted of the murder and sentenced to a life in prison. In
Wow.
life, Kevin imagined his father as loving, but he retained his bullying behavior.
Tubes! Where'd you get those from?
Guess what? I have no idea what you're talking
Oh yeah, I remember that episode.
Jimmy is a kid who often feels unsure about himself and likes to cry way too often. He dreams of becoming famous but miraculous. Jimmy is prone to accidents due to his clumsy nature. He always has many bandages. And
What is it with his face?
kid in the cul-de-sac. Despite this, he can be clever when he wants to be, and he successfully
This face too. Oh my god. They had some crazy faces.
Ed arrived last in the cul-de-sac, born in the early 1990s, and diagnosed with leukemia. His parents thought he was
See?
too weak to play with the other kids, so he remained in bed most of his life. After a valiant fight with leukemia, Jimmy eventually passed
Leukemia.
away, completing the story of the cul-de-sac purgatory. Marvelous verdict. While exploring the cartoony town in the Ed, and Eddie show, we come across tales that are chilling and dark, to be honest. These theories challenge the creator's level of creativity. Not only does a dark theory talk about Peach Creek being purgatory, but it carefully lists down all the possible reasons for it to be one. One
Okay.
captivating reason to look into this terrifying hypothesis is that it gives us a fresh perspective on our childhood.
Look, he looks like
Eddie
one of those
many
cube
in the 90s that would influence
figures.
steps further in life, and it feels somewhat important for us to know the whole truth about this beloved show and its characters. I hope you enjoyed this dark theory, and do share it with your fellow 90s kids. And of course, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done.
So, that was the Purgatory theory video. I have mixed opinions. I have mixed feelings. Like I said, there's some parts that are fun. You know, like the how did Jimmy die, or how did Johnny die? Oh, he died of leukemia. Like you don't know if any of that stuff is really true. Like, in fact, it probably isn't. But that's the fun of making a theory, right? And the Purgatory Ed, and Eddie theory is actually a really popular one. It's I don't believe it's true, but I mean, like I said, it's still a fun one to think about. I don't think it's true at all, and I'm pretty sure Danny Antonucci probably looks at it and is like, "What?" But it's a fun theory. But fun theories always go awry when you start spreading misinformation about them being true or whatever. Anyways, what did you guys think of this theory? Comment down below. Let me know. What are your other favorite theories out there? We could talk about some other theories here on the channel. Leave those down in the comments description down below as well. And as always, I will talk to y'all in the next video. Bye. Thanks so much to Schwarzenegger Bager 8110 for becoming a member. If you would also like to become a member, on my channel there is listed multiple different tier levels, and you can pick out which one is best for you.